Florence Scovel Shinn said the opposite of what everyone else teaches about manifestation, that you don't need to wait for signs, you don't need to be in the right moment, you don't need perfect alignment. She discovered there's a single day each month where all paths open automatically, regardless of your mental or emotional state. Have you ever felt completely stuck in life? Like every door is slammed shut, every road is blocked, and no matter how hard you try, nothing flows. Florence discovered that this happens because 99% of people don't know the secret of the 11th day. In the next few minutes, you're going to find out why this specific day has such powerful energy that can break down any obstacle in your life, even if you're at your absolute worst. Florence discovered this in the most unexpected way. It was March of 1915, and she was going through the hardest phase of her life. Her marriage had ended traumatically. She was facing severe financial difficulties, and her early spiritual teachings weren't having the expected results. Florence felt like a fraud. For 3 months straight, she tried every technique she knew: decrees, affirmations, visualizations, prayers. Nothing worked. It was as if an invisible wall was blocking any manifestation in her life. Florence even started questioning whether everything she'd learned about spiritual laws was real. It was on a Tuesday, March 11th, 1915, that everything changed. Florence had spent the whole night awake, crying and questioning God about why nothing was working in her life. She was exhausted, hopeless, completely defeated. In the morning, she decided to make one last attempt. At 7 in the morning, Florence knelt in her room and said a different prayer. Instead of asking or decreeing, she simply surrendered. God, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't understand why nothing is flowing in my life. I put everything in your hands. If you have a plan for me, please, show me the way. And then something happened that she described as the most extraordinary moment of my spiritual life. Florence felt an intense presence in the room. It wasn't a vision, but a real physical sensation, as if someone had entered the room. And then she heard a clear, soft voice. Florence, today is the day. All 11th days are open portal days. Today, everything you decree will be granted instantly. Florence was in shock. She'd never paid attention to the 11th day specifically, but she decided to test it. Still kneeling, she said with all the faith she could muster, I decree that by the end of this day, 3 undeniable signs will show me that my paths are open. What happened in the next 12 hours completely changed Florence's life and how she understood spiritual laws. At 10 a.m., Florence received an unexpected letter from a publisher interested in publishing her writings on spirituality, something she'd been trying to do for months without success. At 2 p.m., a neighbor knocked on her door, offering her a job as a spiritual counselor for his wife, who was going through a deep depression. The payment would be exactly the amount Florence needed to pay off her debts. And at 6 p.m., the thing that surprised her most, her ex-husband showed up at her door with a proposal for reconciliation and a confession that he had made a terrible mistake by leaving her. Florence was so impressed that she decided to test it again on the next 11th day. On April 11th, she repeated the experiment. And again, everything she decreed manifested quickly and clearly. That's how Florence discovered what she called the law of temporal portals. According to her, the number 11 represents portals in the universe, And when these portals align with the monthly lunar cycles, they create windows of instant manifestation. But Florence discovered something even more fascinating about the 11th day. Over the next 2 years, she tested this discovery with hundreds of people, and she noticed an impressive pattern. On the 11th day of each month, people's mental and emotional resistances were naturally lower. It was as if the universe created a neutral zone where personal blockages had no power. Florence began to document these experiences and discovered that the 11th day works independently of a person's state of mind. Unlike other manifestation techniques that require perfect emotional alignment, the 11th day has such strong energy that it can overcome doubts, fears, and negative thoughts. She tested this with a client named Sarah, who was going through severe depression and couldn't believe in anything positive. On June 11th, 1917, Sarah made just one decree. I decree that my depression transforms into genuine joy. 3 days later, Sarah received news that completely changed her perspective on life. She discovered she was pregnant after years of trying to have children. Florence documented over 200 similar cases, people who were at their worst, making simple decrees on the 11th day and seeing dramatic transformations in their lives in a matter of days. But there's one detail about the 11th day that most people don't know. Florence discovered that it's not enough to just make decrees on the 11th day. There's a specific time and a specific way to do it that exponentially multiplies the power of manifestation. According to her notes, the most powerful time for decrees on the 11th day is between 11:11 a.m. and 11:33 a.m. Florence called this the golden window. During those 22 minutes, the energy of the portal is at its peak, and the specific way. Florence discovered that decrees made on the 11th day should follow a precise structure. First, you must acknowledge the power of the day. On this 11th day, I recognize that all paths open before me. Second, you must make a complete surrender. I surrender all my resistances and fears to the divine power that governs this day. Third, you must decree with absolute authority. I decree and determine that, and then specify exactly what you want to manifest. And fourth, you must seal the decree. It is done. It is finished. And I thank you for the manifestation that is already on its way. Florence taught this technique to a select group of advanced students, and the results were so dramatic that she began to question whether she should share this knowledge widely. The problem is that Florence realized that the 11th day has such great power that it can manifest both positive and negative things with the same intensity. If a person makes negative decrees or uses energy of anger, envy, or revenge on the 11th day, the consequences can be devastating. She documented some cases where people used the 11th day negatively and attracted really difficult situations into their lives. That's why Florence developed what she called the 11th day protection protocol. Remember when I mentioned that Florence discovered the power of the 11th day during her most challenging time? That wasn't a coincidence. Florence realized that the 11th day works especially well for people who are in crisis or feeling totally stuck. It's as if the energy of desperation creates an even wider opening for the portal to function. During 1918, Florence followed 50 people who were facing severe crises, bankruptcy, divorce, serious illnesses, grief. All of them applied the 11th day technique exactly as she taught. In 94% of the cases, Significant transformations began to appear in less than 7 days after the decree. Florence was so impressed with these results that she decided to reveal the secret of the 11th day in her second book. But her publisher convinced her to remove those pages, arguing that the knowledge was too powerful for the general public. So Florence kept this teaching only for her closest students, people she knew personally, and trusted to use the power of the 11th day responsibly. But there's something even more extraordinary about Florence's discovery. She realized that the 11th day doesn't just open pathways for material manifestations. The 11th day also opens channels of communication with what she called higher intelligence. Florence started using the 11th day to receive divine guidance on complex situations in her life. She developed a specific technique. On the 11th day, instead of making decrees, she asked direct questions to the universe and received clear answers through signs, synchronicities, or sudden intuitions. For example, on September 11th, 1920, Florence was undecided about moving to New York City to expand her spiritual work. She asked, "Universe, should I move to New York?" And on the same day, 3 undeniable signs appeared. First, she received a letter from someone offering an apartment in New York for the exact price she could afford. Second, she stumbled upon a newspaper article about spiritual teaching opportunities in New York. And third, a stranger approached her on the street and said, "You have the energy of someone who should be in a big city like New York." Florence moved, and her career took off exponentially. She used this 11th day question technique for more than 15 years, making all the important decisions of her life based on the answers she received on that special day. Then, I discovered something that completely changed my understanding of the 11th day. Florence didn't discover this technique alone. She found references to the power of the 11th day in ancient texts from different spiritual traditions. Jewish mystics spoke about the 11th day as a portal of miracles. Hindu texts mentioned that on the 11th day of each lunar cycle, the gods answer prayers with more benevolence. And even Native American shamanic traditions had specific rituals for the Day of the Double Door, a reference to the 2 numbers 1 that form 11. Florence realized that she had discovered a universal law that different cultures had known for millennia, but that had been lost or forgotten in the modern era. This motivated her to deepen her research on the 11th day even further, and that's when she made her most surprising discovery. Of all, Florence discovered that there are people who are born with a natural connection to the 11th day. She called them portal souls. These people tend to have more intense spiritual experiences, faster manifestations, and a naturally developed intuition. How do you identify if you are a portal soul? Florence listed some signs. First, you frequently see the number 11 on clocks, license plates, documents, without looking for it. Second, important things in your life tend to happen on the 11th. Births, important meetings, life-changing decisions. Third, you have a natural attraction to spirituality and feel that there's a greater purpose in your life. Fourth, other people feel naturally drawn to ask you for advice or spiritual guidance. And fifth, you frequently have premonitions or dreams that come true. If you identified with 3 or more of these signs, Florence would say that you are a portal soul, and the 11th day can be especially powerful in your life. But even if you didn't identify with any of these signs, Florence guaranteed that anyone can use the power of the 11th day. The difference is that some people have a natural ease, while others need to learn the correct technique. And what is the correct technique? Florence developed what she called the complete 11th day ritual. This ritual should be done on the 11th day of each month, preferably between 11:11 a.m. and 11:33 a.m. But Florence discovered that if you can't do it at that time, any moment on the 11th day still possesses special power, just not as intense as the golden window. First step, prepare the environment. Florence recommended a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. Light a white candle. She discovered that the light of the candle amplifies the energy of the portal. If you don't have a white candle, any candle will do. But white is the color that most connects with the pure energy of the 11th day. Second step, purification. Before making any decrees, Florence insisted that you must energetically cleanse the space and yourself. She taught a specific prayer. I cleanse and purify this space and my being from all energies that do not serve my highest good. May only love and light remain here. Third step, the connection. Florence discovered that on the 11th day, you can connect more easily with your inner wisdom. Close your eyes and breathe deeply 3 times. On the third breath, Florence said to visualize a golden door opening before you. This door represents all the paths of your life opening. Fourth step, the acknowledgement. This is crucial. Florence realized that the 11th day responds best when you consciously acknowledge its power. Say out loud, on this sacred 11th day, I acknowledge that I am connected with the universal energy that opens all paths. I am grateful for this opportunity to manifest my highest good. Fifth step, the surrender. Florence discovered that internal resistances can block the power of the 11th day. Therefore, you must consciously surrender all fears and doubts. Say, I surrender to the divine power of this day all my resistances, fears, doubts, and limitations. I allow the energy of the 11th day to dissolve everything that prevents me from receiving my good. Sixth step, the main decree. Here's where you make your specific request. Florence taught a precise structure. I decree and determine that, and then you specify exactly what you want to manifest. Be specific, but not limiting. For example, I decree and declare that the perfect job for me manifests quickly, bringing personal fulfillment and financial abundance. Seventh step, anticipatory gratitude. Florence discovered that thanking the universe before the manifestation accelerates the process. Say with real feeling, I thank the universe for the manifestation that's already on its way. I give thanks for the perfect harmony with which this will unfold. Eighth step, the sealing. Florence always sealed her 11th day decrees with a specific phrase, it is done, it is finished, and so it is. May divine will manifest through this decree for the good of all involved. And ninth step, the release. This step is fundamental. Florence realized that after making the decree on the 11th day, you must completely release the outcome. Don't keep dwelling on it. Don't keep obsessively checking for signs. Trust that the energy of the 11th day is working in your favor. Florence tested this exact sequence with over 500 people over 10 years. The success rate was impressive. 87% of people saw some kind of manifestation or undeniable sign within 11 days after the ritual. But Florence discovered that there is an even more powerful secret about the 11th day. If you do this ritual for 3 consecutive months, that is, on the 11th of 3 months in a row, focusing on the same area of your life. Florence guaranteed that dramatic transformations would happen. She called this the triple manifestation cycle. Florence tested this personally when she decided to expand her spiritual work internationally. During 3 consecutive months, January, February, and March of 1922, she did the complete 11th day ritual, always with the same decree. I decree that my spiritual work reaches people around the world, transforming lives and spreading light. What happened in the following months surprised even her. In April, she received invitations to speak in 3 different countries. In May, her first book was translated into 4 languages, and in June, she received more than 200 letters from people from different continents, saying how her teachings had transformed their lives. Florence realized that she had discovered not just a manifestation technique, but a universal law about how energy works in cycles and specific portals. Then I discovered something even more fascinating in Florence's personal diaries. She documented that certain combinations of the 11th day with other numbers exponentially increase the power of manifestation. For example, when the 11th day falls on a Monday, the first day of the week, the energy of new beginnings is amplified. When it falls on a Friday, a day ruled by Venus, manifestations related to love and money flow more easily. But the most powerful combination, according to Florence, is when the 11th day coincides with a new moon. She called this a double portal, the energy of new beginnings of the new moon, multiplied by the path-opening energy of the 11th day. Florence documented 12 cases of double portal throughout her career, and in all of them, the manifestations were what she described as miraculous. People healing from diseases considered incurable, dramatic financial transformations in a matter of weeks, relationships resolving themselves in surprising ways. In 1924, Florence saw a woman named Emily, who was facing a desperate situation. Her husband had lost his job. She was pregnant with her 3rd child, and they were about to lose their house. The 11th day of that month coincided with a new moon. Florence instructed Emily to do the complete 11th day ritual, but with a specific decree for the double portal. On this sacred day of the double portal, I decree that divine abundance manifests in my life in surprising and wonderful ways. May all doors open for the good of my family. 2 weeks later, Emily received an unexpected inheritance from a distant aunt who had passed away and left a considerable sum specifically to her. The money was enough to pay off the house and support the family for 2 entire years. Florence was so impressed that she began to specifically track the days when the 11th coincided with important lunar phases. And she discovered that there is a cosmic pattern that she hadn't noticed before. But there's something about the 11th day that Florence only discovered in the last years of her life, and which she considered her most important revelation. Florence realized that the 11th day not only opens external pathways, work, money, relationships. The 11th day also opens internal pathways, connections with higher aspects of our own consciousness. During her last years, Florence used the 11th day mainly for what she called consultation with the higher self. Instead of decreeing material manifestations, she asked deep questions about her life purpose, her spiritual evolution, and how she could best serve humanity. And the answers she received were so clear and precise that she began to believe that the 11th day is truly a day where the veil between dimensions becomes thinner, allowing direct communication with our highest wisdom. Florence developed a specific technique for this, which she called Sacred Dialogue of the 11th Day. After doing all the preparation of the normal ritual, instead of making decrees, Florence asked a specific question to her higher self. Dear soul, what guidance do you have for me at this moment of my journey? And then she remained in meditative silence for exactly 11 minutes, just observing what thoughts, images, or sensations arose. Florence discovered that during these 11 minutes on the 11th day, our intuitive mind becomes extremely active and clear. She documented hundreds of these consultations over her last 10 years of life. And the guidance she received guided her through the most important decisions of her spiritual career. It was through one of these consultations that Florence received the guidance to write her most famous books. It was through another consultation that she knew she should move to a specific house in New York, where she ended up developing her most influential work. And it was in an 11th day consultation that she received confirmation that her teachings would continue impacting people long after her physical death. Remember when I talked about the portal souls? People who are born with a natural connection to the 11th day? Florence discovered that these people can use the sacred dialogue of the 11th day to receive guidance, not only about their own lives, but also to help other people. She trained a select group of students in this advanced technique. During the 11th day, they held consultations on behalf of other people who were facing difficult situations, and the guidance they received was consistently accurate and helpful. Florence realized she had discovered not just a personal manifestation technique, but a method to access universal wisdom to benefit all of humanity. And that brings us to what's most important about the 11th day. Florence Scovel Shinn always emphasized that the true power of the 11th day isn't just about getting material things, although that can happen. The real power lies in connecting with our divine nature and discovering our greater purpose in life. If you only use the 11th day to manifest money or relationships, Florence Scovel Shinn would say you're only using about 10% of the available power. But if you use the 11th day to connect with your inner wisdom and discover how you can serve the greater good, then you're accessing the other 90% of the power. That's why Florence Scovel Shinn created what she called the Master Thought 11th Day Decree, a decree that encompasses all areas of life in a balanced way. On this sacred 11th day, I open myself to receive everything that serves my highest good and the good of all. May pathways open for material abundance, personal fulfillment, loving relationships, vibrant health, and especially that I may discover and live my divine purpose in this life. May I be a channel of blessings to all who cross my path. It is done. It is finished. And I give thanks. Florence Scovel Shinn used this version of the decree for the last 15 years of her life, always on the 11th, always between 11:11 a.m. and 11:33 a.m. And she said those were the most fulfilling and prosperous years of her entire existence. Now you know the secret that Florence Scovel Shinn guarded for decades and only shared with her closest students. The next 11th day is coming, and you have a choice. You can let this day pass like any other, or you can use Florence Scovel Shinn's wisdom to open all the pathways that are waiting for you. Florence Scovel Shinn always said, life is constantly offering us opportunities for transformation, but only those who know the right moments can fully take advantage of those opportunities. The 11th day is one of those right moments. And now you know exactly how to take advantage of it. But let me share with you one last secret that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered about the 11th day. Something she only wrote down in her most private journals and never taught publicly. Florence Scovel Shinn realized that there's a specific sequence of 3 consecutive 11th days that can literally change the course of an entire life. She called this the Triangle of Complete Transformation. The discovery happened by chance in 1925, when Florence Scovel Shinn was helping a woman named Emily, who was facing the most severe crisis of her life. Emily had lost her husband, was bankrupt, and her children had distanced themselves from her for reasons she couldn't understand. Florence Scovel Shinn guided Emily to do the 11th day ritual in January, focusing on emotional healing. In February, the ritual was focused on material abundance, and in March, the focus was on family relationships. What happened after the 3rd ritual surprised even Florence Scovel Shinn. In just 2 weeks, Emily received a job offer that would completely change her financial situation. A month later, her children reconciled with her without her needing to make any effort. And 3 months later, she met a wonderful man who became her life partner. Florence Scovel Shinn was intrigued and started testing this sequence with other people. She discovered that when you do 11th day rituals for 3 consecutive months, each focused on a different area of life, emotional, material, and relationships, it creates an energetic field so powerful that transformations in all areas happen simultaneously. She documented 23 cases of this transformation triangle over 8 years. In 22 of the 23 cases, dramatic and positive changes happened in all areas of the person's life. Florence Scovel Shinn also discovered something fascinating about the signs that appear after 11th day rituals. She realized that the universe always confirms when the ritual was successful, but the signs can be very subtle. The most common signs that Florence Scovel Shinn documented include finding pennies on the ground repeatedly, seeing the number 11 in unexpected places, vivid dreams with symbols of doors or keys, strangers smiling at you for no apparent reason, finding white feathers, and hearing the same song playing in different places on the same day. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that when you start to notice these signs after an 11th day ritual, it's confirmation that your manifestation is moving in the energetic plane and will soon materialize in the physical plane. There's also a special protection that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered for the 11th day rituals. If you're going through a very difficult period and fear that your negative energy might interfere with the ritual, Florence Scovel Shinn created what she called the 11th day shield of light before starting the normal ritual. You add this protection. I invoke the divine light of this sacred 11th day to protect and purify me during this ritual. May only energies of love and supreme good operate through me. May any lower energy be transmuted into light before it manifests. Florence Scovel Shinn tested this protection with people who were in very disturbed emotional states, anger, deep depression, despair, and discovered that even in those conditions, the 11th day, rituals produced positive results when the protection was used. The last thing that Florence Scovel Shinn wanted people to know about the 11th day is that this knowledge is a gift that should be shared responsibly. She always said, when you master the power of the 11th day, you become responsible for teaching others who are ready to receive this knowledge. Florence Scovel Shinn believed that people who discover the secret of the 11th day don't discover it by accident. According to her, these are souls who have a specific purpose to help in the elevation of planetary consciousness. And the knowledge of the 11th day is a tool to fulfill that purpose, if you've made it this far, and absorbed everything I've shared about Florence Scovel Shinn's revelation. That's not a coincidence. You were drawn to this knowledge because your soul is ready to use this wisdom, not only for your own transformation, but to become a force of light and transformation in the world. Florence Scovel Shinn always ended her teachings on the 11th day with a special blessing. May you use this sacred knowledge with wisdom, love, and responsibility. May every portal that opens in your life also open doors for others. And may you always remember that the true power isn't in getting what you want, but in becoming who you were born to be. The next 11th day is your opportunity to start this journey of complete transformation. Florence Scovel Shinn would be so proud, knowing that her most precious secrets continue to illuminate pathways and unlock possibilities for people all around the world. So, what color immediately popped into your mind when I mentioned the white candle from the ritual? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one.